Kibbe Show.
This is a special episode of the Riley and Kibbe Show. I can't believe this is happening. It's special because we have somebody who's coming to Orlando to Fanboy Expo Orlando real soon. It's August 20th through the 22nd. Somebody I call a master of the theater of the mind. He is a master voice talent. Actually, they call him a legend. And I can actually say that because I'm just read his voice lessons book, and he is a legend. So many voices, too many to list here. I'll just do a quick few. I don't know what this character actually is, this species. That is Yakko from the Animaniacs, Raphael from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Donatello from the reboot, and he actually voiced Bacon. Bacon Bill. Rob Paulsen has joined the Riley and Kibbe Show. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, well, hello, nurses and doctors and whomever is out there. Thank you very much for that auspicious introduction. I am very thrilled to be here. And may I tell your listeners that your humble host, who has been kind enough to host me, is a very kind and accommodating host, because this old Ninja Turtle totally blew the interview time this morning, and you have been so kind in manipulating your schedule to accommodate me. So thank you. What a pleasure to be with you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, since we talked, I brought up Bacon Bill. I doubt you get Bacon Bill questions too often.
No.
How I know sometimes they used to give you like 3D, renditions of whatever the character is going to be, or a drawing. What they do with Bacon Bill? Do they just throw some bacon down on a table and said, make it come alive?
Why not? I mean, people think it's a big deal that you can talk like bacon, but the glorious aspect of that is that nobody has any freaking idea what bacon sounds like. So what can be disturbing is if you come up with a voice for bacon and then people say, yeah, it doesn't sound like bacon. Then you got a problem. So I came up with something, and the producers said, good enough for us. And Bacon Bill was born. And I don't know if he's still living, but he was a lot of fun.
Actually, I watched, and Bacon Bill, for those who don't know, was on VeggieTales. And I started watching that because of you and Bacon Bill. I was like,
oh, bless your heart. Thank you very much. I don't often voice pork products, but when I do, it's Bacon Bill.
Now, are you bringing your book with you to Orlando? Are you going to have some of those copies available at the table, or should we have people head to a bookstore ahead of time?
Firstly, thank you so very much. I don't expect nice folks like you to read it. I mean, unless I'm asked to speak about the book. So the fact that you sort of did that organically is very, very thoughtful and kind of you. I will not have a bunch of books with me because, as you can imagine, they're a little bit difficult to lug around. But if people are interested in having me sign it, that would be wonderful. It is called Voice Lessons, and the subtitle is How a Couple of Ninja Turtles, Pinky and an Animaniac, Saved My Life. And if you read the book and or whatever, you will understand why that title is appropriate. But yes, sir, absolutely. Folks can get it at the usual places, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or with the time that we have before Orlando, they could probably get one from Amazon. So
I just checked.
It would be a pleasure to sign it for people.
I just checked. It is available on Amazon. You have some time, and I encourage anybody, everybody, to actually read this, because it will take you into, there's some darkness that Rob faced, but it will take you into a positive world. I think you are a positive light, sir. And
thank you.
That is a message from your book that I think, in especially today's trying times, that people need to actually read. And I think it'll help them.
I can tell that, I agree with you, at least with respect to the second half of your really lovely. And I feel like a person in my, and yours too, our jobs are essentially to convey information, hopefully joy, happiness. I am a blue-collar worker in the dream factory, man. I'm in the happy business. And to the extent that my story ultimately has a a satisfying, uplifting message of joy and perseverance and all that is precisely what my writer, Mike Fleeman, who really did all the heavy lifting, and yours truly, wanted to do. So based on your very kind review, we hit the mark, and I'm so glad, because that, man, it is a rough. I'm speaking to people in Florida. My God, you guys are in a giant petri dish down there for all practical purposes. It's a very tough circumstance for everyone. And so, man, if you can, if any of us can find a way to, tickle folks' ribs a little bit, yes. I am so in. Thank you.
When you wrote the book, did it hurt to relive the medical part? I mean, you went into some details. I can't believe you went into details. Did it?
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I for folks who obviously wouldn't know, is for a few years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 metastatic squamous cell carcinoma, not of the toe, not of the uterus, but of the throat. So trust me, the twisted cosmic irony of that whole circumstance was not lost on me. But no, I was not. It definitely brought back some uncomfortable memories, but the circumstances in which I was reliving those still pretty fresh memories were so profoundly positive. I'm cured. I was told at the beginning, here's the deal, kid. We can cure you, but before we do, we almost have to kill you. And I asked for that. I wanted the straight dope. I wasn't a kid. I wanted to know what my family and I were going to deal with. And it was not hyperbole. They beat the daylights out of me. And it's for obvious reasons, a very difficult treatment. Your mouth, your throat, swallowing, eating, drinking. It's tough, but it works like a charm. And it did for me. And so to be in a position a couple of years after my treatment was over, there's no question that Rob 2.0 was different than the Rob that I'd lived for decades beforehand. But the circumstances were that Mike and I got an opportunity to write a book. We were being paid to write a book that was ultimately a joyful expression of gratitude. And honestly, if you find people nice enough to pay you to do that, and you know that the outcome will be helpful, and then down the road I get to speak with nice people like you who encourage me to talk about it, I don't think it's any better way to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, It's a remarkably wonderful thing that I've been privileged to be involved with. So if it was a little uncomfortable, it was totally worth it.
Well, I'm glad you actually... I'm glad you actually sat down and however you did it, you transcribed it or you wrote it and wrote notes. I'm glad you did that because I can't imagine actually sitting down and reliving something that I got away from, that I survived, that I conquered. That's remarkable that you were able to do that. Now,
very kind of you, and I certainly appreciate and will gratefully accept your very authentic compliment. But what's interesting is I'm asked often for obvious reasons. Look, man, you broke cancer. What happened? My God, didn't you flip out when you got that diagnosis? And the truth is that I didn't, nor did my wife, because as a result of this astonishingly wonderful career that I'm still enjoying, I and Yakko and Pinky and Carl and Raphael, and Donatello, and a bunch of other critters who live in my cabeza have been asked countless times to call kids and speak to their parents and the kids because, these lovely folks and their babies happen to love a show which I happen to provide. So I had, literally countless, hundreds, and not just me, we all do it, examples of real profiles and courage of how people deal with impossibly difficult, profoundly sad circumstances. And I don't even know how many times I was called by a hospital or Make-A-Wish or a family through to Disney or Nick, whatever, And I was told up front, little Jennifer is on her way out. She's a lovely young girl. She's 11, but she has a glioblastoma, and she just lives for Yakko. And obviously, I don't know that there's any way to quantify what an incredibly powerful compliment it is to be asked, but I was able to pretty much contextualize my own struggle really quite quickly, because I got to see what real pain is like and real struggle, and how these parents put their pants on the next day after burying their babies. That was not my circumstance. It was put your head down and suck it up. You'll figure it out. And then when many of these parents found out that I was dealing with this, my family was dealing with this, they started to reach out to me and would send me little videos of, hey, Rob, this is when you remember when Yakko sang Canada, Mexico, Canada, to our little sweet daughter. You know what that meant. Dot, 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 dot. And when you hear that over and over and over again, it contextualizes what one considers a struggle. I have been blessed beyond it in infinite ways, and I continue to be. So I had a little detour, but the upshot of the detour was a platinum lining, which allows me to be helpful now. And it turns out that kindness, empathy, courage, like love, come from the most unexpected places. And man, have I learned how deeply people connect with these characters. It's way bigger than my paycheck, my friend. It's incredible.
Is there something you left out of the book you wish you had actually put in? I mean, you sent it off to the publisher. They got it, they sent you the proofs, and then you went, oh boy, I wish I had added blank. Was there something you left out?
Yeah, I wish I'd have put in, I got a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. Because maybe I would have had that, a predestined, no, I think we laid it all out on the table. I don't believe there was anything, and that's a great question. No one's ever asked me that, so well done. I don't know that there was anything as I look back and think, gosh, I wish I'd have talked more about this. I think if anything, Mike and I could have done another chapter, and frankly, I would love to write a follow-up book. And I think I would even call it, my life in the Dream Factory, or my blue collar worker in the Dream Factory, ... how the real power of joy, something like that, because I could write a book, that embellishes many circumstances that I just kind of suggested in answering your previous question. I'm still daily astonished at the extent to which these characters connect with people in the most impossibly deep circumstances. I often hear, oh my gosh, Rob, you're the voice of my childhood, and now my children's childhood. That's incredible. That alone is enough to make you just sit down and try to get your bearings, because you can't believe how fortunate you are. But what I also hear is, on the heels of you're the voice of my childhood, I had such a great, oh my God, and now I watch them with my kids and even my grandkids. But then I hear people who say, Mr. Paulsen, but for Ninja Turtles, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Jimmy Neutron, Goof Troop, the Mask, the Tick, Biker Mice from Mars, you name it. But for that stuff, my childhood was a mess. And the only ray of light that I and my brother had through our parents' 2-year acrimonious divorce was holding on to each other and watching Ninja frickin' Turtles. How on earth do I sort of process what that means? But I hear it over and over and over and over again, and that is something about which I could write an authentic book about now, and it's astonishing.
You don't get tired of the voices. I mean, it's obvious in the book. It's obvious, you and I talking here, because I have seen in like old game shows. I'm a big fan of old game shows. You would see
right.
You'd see Gene Rayburn. Maybe you would have the actor who played Arnold Horshack come on, and he'd go do the voice. Do the laugh.
Sure.
And you
Hello,
kind of
yeah.
see the actor going, "Oh no," but you're not that way.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me? No, no, no. Look, uh, I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is way better. But the Jones to do my gig is no different from the time I was 10 or 11 years old, because I did it to make my soul happy, and then a little bit later I did it because it made girls laugh, and then a little bit later I thought, wow, people want me to come and be a group and blah blah blah. Then you start getting paid $20 to do it. But I'll tell you what, I'm 65 years old now. I work every day. I can work as long as either I can think or till I die, or I don't want to. Um, and I promise you, I promise you, this gig, it is about, all I have to do is start doing this, and I know what's happening to your face, and it could be gas, but it's probably just because you're getting a kick out of Carl Weezer coming out of this old guy's head. Same thing with Yakko. Same thing with Pinky. Same thing with Raphael. Anytime I have an exchange with someone who recognizes me or a fan or whatever, the predictable experience is glorious. And I would argue that it is I who get the bigger kick than the fan. It never gets old. And I'll tell you what, the moment that I roll my eyes and say, oh, okay, that's the time I hope somebody hits me in the head with a bat and says, it's time for you to retire, son. Because we're not for people like you kind enough to talk, I wouldn't have this profound joy in my life. I mean, I make a living doing what used to get me in trouble in 7th grade. How much better can it be? So as long as the problem will be when people don't want to hear me sing United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru. That's my stairway to heaven. And the problem is not people asking. The problem will be when they stop.
Oh boy. Now, Rob, I'm kind of curious. You mentioned, you have another book in you. Is there any chance that you will do a book on voice work? The reason I ask is Dawes Butler was known for taking certain students from time, he would choose. He would be very selective, like Nancy Cartwright, and he would mentor them.
Yeah.
Is that something you could do? I mean, in a book form? I know Gary Owens did a book a number of years ago. You can make $1 million voice work, something that title, which I gave to a voice talent, a friend of ours, George Lowe, as a birthday gift.
My goodness, great.
Oh, he loved that. I'm curious, is there a mentoring process at all? I mean, anymore? The golden age cartoon voices and Silver Age came from basically radio. They came from the golden age of radio, like Alan Reed, who did Fred Flintstone, Mel Blanc, Dawes Butler, Don Messick, all those.
Mm-hmm.
Is there
June Foray, totally?
Is there a learning place now? Radio's long gone. Where can new talent come from, or somebody who says, hey, I'd really like to voice in games, animation in, games and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, it's a great question. And yes, there are a number of folks out here who are excellent teachers. I am not one of them. I'm really good at my gig, but I ought to be. I've been doing it forever.
Right.
To be able to, and I can speak on behalf of the people whom I know are wonderful actors and also wonderful teachers, to be able to be comfortable with taking usually a young actor's hard-earned money, of which they don't have very much, and feel comfortable taking it because you're going to give them value for that. They don't often have to spend, but they're choosing to use it on Richard Horvitz or Charlie Adler or Kay Bass or Debbie Gary Barry, one of the people who are really good teachers, Steve Bloom. They have the tools to add information that's helpful for a young actor. I often give seminars because I'm really good at telling people what I did and how I do what I do. And to the extent that can apply to their own personal circumstance, I am all for that. And I can answer questions with authenticity and expertness all day long because I've been doing this for 40 years. And I know everybody who has done it at a high level for that length of time, many of whom have left. So I'm very helpful in that regard, but I'm not good at teaching because I don't have that skill. What I tell people, young actors, is that it's about acting. Small V, large A, voice acting. Everyone I know at this level, Billy West, Maurice LaMarche, John DiMaggio, Tress MacNeille, Nancy Cartwright, Dan Castellaneta, Harry Shearer, the usual suspects, all of us. Jim Cummings, who's Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and the Tasmanian Devil and Darkwing Duck and all that. We all have performance backgrounds. I was a singer who became an actor, who was very prolific in theater before I moved to LA. I was doing the usual stuff, TV, movies, music, and then I lived the axiom that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. I did not know that I would make my living doing animation primarily, and it wasn't what brought me to LA from Michigan. But I was prepared in 1985, I think, when I got G.I. Joe and Transformers. I was prepared. The opportunity presented itself, and I said to young Rob, dude, I think you're fixing to get lucky. And I did. And then a few years later, because I had started doing animation in conjunction with everything else I was doing, because I just want to work. Acting is acting. But then a show called Animaniacs presented itself from a clean sheet of paper. And I'd been a singer first, knew how to read music, been creating voices and characters and dialects simply for the joy of doing it. I'd already started doing a little animation. And I thought, oh my God, this is my pitch. And I went to the producers, and I had never before nor since I walked up to the folks at Warner Brothers and said, if you don't hire me for this, you're making a mistake. I never in a million years thought that they would just give me the gig. But I thought, this is something that as long as you give it everything you can, and you know that if they gave you 100 auditions, you couldn't get any better, that if you get it right, this will change your life. And I was right. And here we are 25 years later, and Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain are back on Hulu, and they are an unqualified hit again with the king of Hollywood again at 74 years old, Mr. Spielberg. And the opportunity presented itself. I had been prepping for decades, unbeknownst to me, but man, when it pops up in front of you, the trick is realizing when this is your pitch and really going for it. And I was fortunate enough that I recognized that.
How many auditions did you do for the Animaniacs? I can't recall. I think you mentioned that in the book. It wasn't just one read.
6. Yeah, no, it was 6 callbacks. It was, anytime it's a big deal, well, of course, it's Steven. It doesn't get, for any actor, well, virtually anybody in show business, it doesn't get any bigger than an opportunity to work with Mr. Spielberg. And I had that pleasure a number of times beforehand. The first time I worked with him was on E.T., doing a bunch of character voice stuff years ago. And then I did an on-camera gig for him in Amazing Stories. And then I did Tiny Toon Adventures. And that same group, the genius Tom Ruger, who created Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain and Freakazoid and just Hysteria, just a profoundly gifted man. We're friends from Tiny Toons, and they came to me and the usual suspects and said, hey, you guys, we're doing this brand new thing, going to be music-driven, variety show, and we'd love to have all of you from Tiny Toons come in, but of course, it's not just a different iteration of the Looney Tunes characters. This is a brand new, fresh creation, all brand new music, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to have you involved, but it's going to be fairly arduous. And it was, understandably. I think they auditioned 500 people in here in New York. And that sounds daunting, but it's not unusual. And I've auditioned for dozens of projects that I've gotten 2 or 3 callbacks for and didn't get the job. I mean, that's just the way it goes. In my case, the difference was that I was very cognizant of how special this was in terms of the opportunity. Certainly, no one knows whether or not a show will be a hit, and arguably, Yakko and Pinky, in my case, have become, I think, arguably iconic. But I don't draw them and I don't write them. When you work with Steven, you know you're going to get the best animators, composers, players, writers, and if I can raise my game to their level, then we got something. And so, yeah, the fact that I had a bunch of auditions and callbacks didn't dissuade me at all. It was a bit nerve-wracking, but I love that feeling of really being in the game. That's what you come out here to do. You know, you come out here to be in that giant sandbox. You come out here to get an invite to the cool kids party. And yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking, but it sure beats working at, the 99-cent only store, which with my skill level is pretty much what I'd be doing were I not be an actor.
Wouldn't you be still at Perkins?
Yes. I would
serving me an omelet?
In Grand Blanc, Michigan, making omelets, quote unquote, which really look more like roadkill in my case. But yeah, that was my gig between being on the road with a theater company for 2 years or year and a half and joining a rock and roll band, which was very successful back in Michigan. But yes, sir. Thank you very much. A great little reference to the book. Thank you very much again, my friend. Yeah, I was a short order. Oh God, we've done everything. Short order cooks, fixing apartments, cleaning apartments, fixing toilets, selling cars. Yeah, you name it. That's we've all of us in this gig have had a zillion hats we've worn to try to finally get the gig.
Before I let you go, I'm curious, what was the most taxing voice for you? Was it being part of the Animaniacs, the one that where when you recorded something during the day, you're like, wow, that got my throat. I mean, pre the medical condition, what really is a voice that was like, wow, it took a drain on me in my throat?
Yeah, actually there were, well, in terms of actually hurting a little bit where I had to take a break or try to record on a Friday so I could get the weekend to recuperate. A wonderful sort of secondary, actually tertiary character, not even a really big deal to me, but not a huge character at all. I just loved doing it on a Butch Hartman show for Nickelodeon called Fairly Odd Parents, and I did a character who is an alien named Mark Chang, who is a sort of surfer guy, and it's way over the top, dude, and he's in love with Vicky. And I love the character. I got to improvise. I got to come up with all sorts of wacky stuff. But because of the nature of the way he expresses himself, it is very taxing on one's vocal cordite. And oh my God, it was so much fun. But once you start rolling, then you start doing stuff just for the sake of doing it that isn't even in the script, because then you get a laugh from your peers or the producers, and the recording stopped, but you can't stop, or I can't stop because I'm having fun and I'm getting laughs. I don't want to stop. And so even if they say, Rob, we don't, we're good. What? I want to sing a song for you as Mark Chang. And they say, yeah, but you don't have to. I don't care. And so it was my own fault. But that was one that beat me up a little bit, and I was good for about an hour, and then I would have to stop. So what Butch would often do, because the folks producing and writing these shows are very, very kind and very aware that there are certain voices that tax the actors, and of course they want to get a really great performance that they can capture and animate. So they often would say, hey, Robbie, if you've already worked today or you worked, why don't you go ahead and read your lines, and then at the end of the show, we'll send everybody home and we'll redo them with Mark at, turned up to 11, so you don't have to do it 2 or 3 times. And everybody was just fine. But that was one that I really had to recuperate from. And then there was a show I did years ago that never made it to air. We did 13 episodes of an animated show that was based on a very famous British comic book called Dan Dare, pilot of the character that was this disembodied brain called the Mekon. And I came up with this voice for the Mekon that is very taxing on my vocal cords, and I basically squeeze air through my voice out my mouth. And as long as I'm able to express that air in an effective voice for this strange, violent character. And then I did that on the audition. And a week later, my agent called and said, "Oh, my God, they really dig what you did for this crazy character." And that's one of those things where I thought, oh, my God, I just did it, but I don't know if I can do it every day or every week. So we did 13 episodes, and I was up front with the producer. I said, "I got to tell you guys, I think I kind of dug myself into a vocal hole. I really am grateful, and I want to do this show, but delightful. No problem. You know, we really want to get it right, so we'll do it at the end." So it all works out great. The trick is to know when it's taxing and know it can beat you up, and not be afraid to be honest with the producers. You know, younger actors they don't want to come across as weak or, you know, "I can't do this. Can you, help me out?" And the producers, if they hire you, they want you to be good. And so if that means they got to work with you a little bit, as long as it's not, "I can't do this unless I have an airstream," that's different. But trying to say that you can give them what they need, they're absolutely willing to work with you.
Now, for those who can't come to Orlando for Fanboy Expo on August 20th through the 22nd, you're actually going out on the road with the Animaniacs in concert at the end of this month, right?
How about that? Yeah.
My partner, the genius, 5-time Emmy-winning composer of most of the songs that people love from Animaniacs and a bunch of new songs from the new show, Randy Rogel, who wrote, Tunisia, Morocco, Uganda, Angola, Zimbabwe, Djibouti, Botswana. And it's a great big universe, and we're all really puny. We're just tiny little specks about the size of Mickey Rooney. Randy wrote all that stuff. And Warner Brothers has given us a magnificent licensing deal by which we're allowed to take the music and animation of Animaniacs and do it in concerts all over the country. And our first gig post-COVID, we've already done it probably 35 times around the country. And the first one back at it is the 28th of this month in Phoenix at the Madison Center. We have been to Florida once or twice before pre-COVID, but we'll, I'm sure, come back. For folks who are interested in seeing us, all our dates that are available at the moment are on animaniacslive.com. You'll get to see what the show's about. New dates coming up, new dates being added all the time. And thanks for asking. It is an absolute blast. And I can guarantee you that if you come to see our show, you will leave utterly exhausted from laughing and sometimes crying with nostalgic tears. It is just wonderful. And man, I can't wait to do it again.
Well, I can't wait till you come to Florida so I can see you do that again. I mean, actually perform.
Yeah, for sure.
One quick question: you're probably going to sign just anything, right? Just, I mean, as long as it's legal. Somebody comes to the table, they can bring any Animaniacs thing, any Pinky in the Brain thing, to have you sign.
You back. In fact, in Florida, the reason it's such a cool thing is that it's the 4 original Ninja Turtles. It's Raphael, yours truly, Donatello, Barry Gordon, Michelangelo, Townsend Coleman, and Leonardo, Cam Clark. And in a very rare TMNT reunion, we're being joined by the beautiful Renee Jacobs, who is April O'Neil. So you have the original TMNT all together at Fanboy Expo in Orlando next week. And that is a week from this weekend. And we are all excited to be there.
And we can't wait to see you, buddy.
Thanks.
We'll be happy to see you at Fanboy Expo Orlando. That is the voice of Bacon, Bacon Bill. Yes, Rob Paulsen. Please check out his book. We'll put a link on for the Amazon, where you can purchase it direct if you'd like to, or head to your favorite bookstore. Rob, thank you for being on our show.
My great pleasure, my friend, and you are helping me spread the word that love It's the best medicine. And the cool thing is you can't OD and the refills are free. It's what a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Riley and Kimmy Show's special podcast. Please share this with friends and family. Shareable links available on our Facebook page, Twitter, and our website, RileyandKimmy.com.